Hey y'all. All right. I'm so glad you came back for day two, talking about World War One this week. All righty. So war and the economy. Remember yesterday I told you that the war actually helped Alabama's economy. So we're going to talk about how it did that. Industry and trade grew significantly during the war. Okay. Mobile became a center for shipbuilding and trade because you remember they opened up the port so that ships could come in and out easier. This is actually a picture from during World War One of a ship that was built in Mobile, and this is them releasing that ship into the ocean to actually be used. So I thought this was a pretty neat picture that I wanted to make sure I let y'all see. Soldiers from all over the country were trained at Camp McClellan in Anniston and Maxwell Field in Montgomery. The government built Wilson Dam on the Tennessee River to provide electric power to nitrate plants in Muscle Shoals, so up in northern Alabama. And those nitrate plants made bullets and bombs that were sent over to the troops. Iron factories in Birmingham, Anniston, and Gadsden supplied the materials to make weapons. So as you can see, you can kind of see and start putting together how this is helping our economy, because when we're in the middle of a war, well, they need bullets, they need bombs, unfortunately, they need weapons. So if we're making those to send over there, the more we make, the more that boosts our economy. See how this is kind of helping? Lumber mill workers produce lumber that was needed for war. Textile mills across the state supplied the cloth for uniforms and other things that the troops needed as well. So as you can see, all of these different trades and industries are coming into play because they're needing to make things to send to the troops overseas. Alabamians helped win the war because their farmers were growing more food to be sent to the Allied forces overseas. Many women actually knitted socks, mittens, caps, scarves, you name it, for soldiers. And they actually used these advertisements to get more women to jump on board to do that. It says you can help. And it was through the American Red Cross. And you can see this woman in this picture knitting for the troops overseas. So I thought this was a pretty cool thing that I found to show y'all how they were kind of advertising to get more people to jump on helping. Other women made and wrapped bandages for the war effort. They traveled throughout the state to sell Liberty bonds to help pay for the war. And families cut back on their groceries too. So they ate less meat and they used products like molasses and cornmeal instead of flour and sugar so that there was more of flour and sugar and meat to send to the troops. So I thought that was a pretty neat piece of information as well, because even though a lot of families weren't knitting things or able to grow crops or anything like that, they were still trying to help by buying less of those things so that they could go to the troops. Alabama had its share of soldiers who actually ended up becoming leaders of our state and our nation. So Major General Robert Bullard from Opelika served in France as commander of the 2nd U.S. Army, and he later became a member of the Alabama Hall of Fame. Another famous Alabamian who served during World War II was Hugo Black. This is Hugo Black. After the war, he continued his service as a U.S. Senator from Alabama, and then he later ended up serving on the U.S. Supreme Court, and he served there for 35 years, and he is still considered to be one of the greatest U.S. Supreme Court justices in its history. So that's pretty neat because he's from Alabama and he's considered one of the best. Because of the efforts and sacrifices both overseas and at home, remember the Allied powers did win the war, and the armistice is just a word for an agreement that meant you were going to stop fighting. They agreed to stop fighting, and it was signed on November 11th, 1918. Who knows what that day is? Anybody? Does that date sound familiar? Not maybe the 1918, but November 11th. If it does, that's because it should, because we still honor that day that the armistice was signed every single year as Veterans Day. So that is why we celebrate Veterans Day, because that is the day that the armistice was signed to stop fighting World War I. All right, guys, that is it for today. We will not have a new social studies lesson tomorrow, but you will on Thursday. So I will see you right back here on your screen then. Have a great day, guys.